The following is a presentation of iRacing on PTR TV. We'd like to thank all of our channel partners for their support. Please like and subscribe to the channel, and we hope you enjoy today's broadcast. Tonight we take a rare trip across the Pacific and find ourselves in the foothills of Mount Fuji. Now owned by the Toyota Motor Corporation, Fuji Speedway has been home to Super GT, Super Formula, the 6 Hours of Fuji, and an F1 date as recently as 2008. Tonight the Red Sox Racing League takes their GT3 and LMP campaign out to Japan for race number 3 of their Fall 22 campaign. Welcome everyone to PTR TV, where tonight we do have race number 3 of the Red Sox Racing League, again at the newly released Fuji Speedway here on iRacing for 35 minutes of our GT3 and LMP2 campaign. Currently a few minutes left here in qualifying, so we'll head down trackside and see what we have to show you guys right now. LMP is currently on the track for their qualifying laps here at the, I guess I said, newly released Fuji Speedway. Only about a build or two on the iRacing service, so a lot of these guys are still learning it. Apologies for the little pause there, having to really fight off a lingering cough here that I've had for multiple weeks. But currently we have about only 9 LMPs here this evening. So the GT3 is definitely the more populous vehicle here this evening. Looks like we have 24 guys here that took the trip across the Pacific to head here to Oyama, Japan for this race here, and be interesting to see how it does play out in GT3. We did have Ryan Robertson win the first 2 races, and I don't see him here to defend his three-peat, so that will give a new winner in the GT3 class. But currently Robert Barros did get that GT3 pole position. Mitch Heller, of course, one of our normal top runners, on the top of the pylon here for LMP2's lap time of 1 minute 30, essentially 1 minute 31 seconds around this racetrack that lengthwise is just under 2.9 miles with a 16 turn layout. This track does feature one of the longest straightaways in motorsports, that they're of just under 1 mile. So that will lead into a very heavy braking zone for turn number 1, which will be critical for passing and for slipstreaming. But this is a very technical circuit. Once you get past 1, 2, 3, which are pretty quick, then you have 100R, which is turn number 4. But once you get to the back end of the circuit, turn number 9, kind of where they are right now, this is a very slow and technical circuit. You may have seen in the opening display that this place has underwent 5 reconfigurations over the years, so they finally settled on this most recent layout. So it's definitely a track that you do really have to learn It's not one that you can pick up very quickly, at least for me anyways. This track for sim racers. Many have known this track for many console sim racing titles such as Gran Turismo, Forza. But from a simulator perspective, iRacing has only had this track about a build. It's a hot off the presses release. So a lot of these drivers still learning the nuances. It'll be interesting to see who makes the mistakes and who has the most consistent times and ultimately puts it in victory lane here this evening. Are in our 2-minute countdown here, so everybody who has a live lap right now, I believe David Berry, who we are following right now, I believe he is on a live lap, so we'll see if he can best that 1 minute 31.8. Looks like Mitch Heller did turn up the wick since even I last spoke about him, down to a 130.2, and then you can see here back in GT3 a 1 minute 39 for Robert Barrows. So not the biggest, actually in relative hindsight, it's actually a pretty close distance between the two classes. So we've seen some racetracks the difference was upwards of 39 seconds, but classes are modestly close here. So I think they were only expecting about 2 interactions, maybe 3, with some of the slower GT3s. So this race definitely will keep things separated. The long racetrack and the technical sections, I think, really do facilitate keeping those GT3s and LMPs kind of in the same ballpark here. But again, race number 3 here this season. You could I'll bring up our schedule graphic right here. You can see that we will be heading to the famous Road Atlanta, which will be a track that everybody knows on the back of their hand. Indianapolis Road, which has been slightly modified, but still retains much of the old characteristics that many drivers know. And then Imola, another classic on our schedule. And as far as I know, this race is still presented by Anodyne, so I want to give them a shout out. I don't have my blurb handy, but Anodyne is our presenting sponsor of tonight's race. So that is the end of qualifying here. So we are just about ready to go down trackside. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in here to PTR TV. If you're new, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Help us out on our road to 1,000 subs. But let's go ahead and give you the starting lineup here today from the Fuji Speedway. On tonight's overall poll, Mitch Heller with a lap time of 1 minute 30.268. Mark Wilson on the outside of the front row. Starting in the second position, Mark Wilson, actually I may have just said that. In the third spot, Les Turner. Fourth spot, Todd Marin-Pietri. David Berry in fifth, Dennis Griffin in sixth, and then our last of the qualifiers in LMP, Bill Pollucky in seventh, Zach Kruger in eighth. And then starting with our GT3s, Robert Barrows, Chad Dalton on the front row, Peter Mahler and Jason Breifogel third and fourth, Reed Rundle and league owner Terry Dahl fifth and sixth. We have Paul Lindsay and Mark Kudrowski seventh and eighth. Dwayne McCarthy and Matt Owens round out top 10 in GT3, and then rounding out our field is Jerry Mueller, James Prostel Jr., one of the long-timers in the league, Ed Sutcliffe, Kevin Kyle in 14th, Scott Huston in 15th, and then we have Ross Booth in LMP, did not qualify. Also interesting to point out that really the two drivers that have been dominating our GT3 season actually aren't even present for tonight's festivities. So we'll definitely have a shakeup in the GT3 standings with Ryan Robertson and Aldo Secklin not being present here tonight. So we'll see who can tackle Mount Fuji which we may see off in the distance here depending on the scenic shots here. But coming through the end of the circuit, I'm not going to lie to you folks, I don't have this track down and memorized quite yet. So corner numbers, referenced locations on the racetrack, just to be bluntly honest, I don't have them down pat. I'm going to be learning as from what I was told some of these drivers are as well. So I believe we are headed into 14 right now. 15, let me just double check. Yep, I think this is 15, and let's see if we have a right-hander with a pit lane entrance right here. Yep, well, we're actually, there we go. We're on the 1 mile long front straightaway here. So that pace car will take that right-hand turn into the Fuji pit lane here. The Barney the Flagman to the right side of your screen. Going to get this race underway. Our LMPs catching on up here. Remember, they have the staggered start. You can see the GT3s off in the distance on the long shot. Getting ready here for that green flag to formally wave. Very late start here. The flag band definitely takes his time to get this race underway for this track, but there goes the green flag in LMP. You can see here Heller in that orange machine is going to have Batman Les Turner right on his back bumper heading into 1. They're going to be briefly 3 wide. Mark Wilson, Todd Marinpietri there on the distance. The GT3s, they're going to be waiting to start finish, so we'll keep an eye on LMP for the time being here as Heller comes into this is 100R, and then we head into hairpin at the end of this long corner. But I think at this point GT3s will be rolling. There goes that start. Robert Barros is going to lead them down. Chad Dalton in the BMW is going to be, rather the Mercedes is just behind that. And let's see how everybody else funnels into turn number 1 into turn number 2. Left-hand corner, actually titled the Coca-Cola corner, right where we stand right now, and then heading into 100R, turn number 4. We'll go on board here and kind of walk through this together. This is hairpin. Turn number 6, little kink there, that's number 7. Kink to the right here, turn number 8. And a lot of corners here, name 9 right there. That's called 300R. And then we head here into the Dunlop chicane. Dunlop chicane, 10, 11, 12. The brief little straightaway here into 13. And 14, 15 here. This is called Nets, a double apex left-hander. And then that leads us into a little short turn here that tightens up into Panasonic, turn number 16 here at Fuji. Leading on to the 9/10 of a mile long front straightaway here. These GT3s definitely known for slipstreaming, so if you have any kind of run off a 16, you are going to be able to take advantage of it heading down into 1, and it's obviously very paramount to get that run off of 16 because it's going to lead you into the highest speed sector of the track, upwards of 170 some-odd miles an hour, hard on the binders into 1. So Heller up front mile by about 2 seconds over Les Turner, and I hate to say it, as Heller completes another lap, looking around 22, 23 laps on the evening here. We are predicting, based on the telemetry given thus far. But you may remember last week at Monza, where Heller had the race pretty much in the bag, and one thing that Heller has done a few times over the course of the last few seasons is have some self-inflicted mistakes, and he had that happen again at Monza. And it took a win away from him, so you know that that is on the back of his mind, where just wants to take advantage of a race where he has arguably one of the fastest cars and just not have something out of its, just not have something to, interrupt what should be an inevitable. So have a good solid pit stop, nice solid strategy, and just don't do anything as the driver to take away what could be a victory here. Ross Booth in the 6, closing in on David Berry. This is for the 4th position on the racetrack. Cutting into the exiting Dunlop there, I do believe, on the latter end of the circuit. He's going for the high-low there in Panasonic onto the front straightaway here. He tried to do the high-low crossover move, and it did work. Did manage to take advantage of that run, and they'll drag race down the front straightaway here. He's trying to go as low as he can to avoid any drafting or side drafting, but he's going to get by. Will the 14 make a crossover move into 1? He's going to think better of it, but we may have something stirring up in GT3 right now. As Chad Dalton stalking Robert Barros, our race leader there, and just behind that we do have Peter Mahler. So GT3, these guys are still sticking right together here, trying to make a battle there. Looks like Dalton going very wide there, but that is just a way to take some of these corners here, where you go wide, you can do that crossover, and depending how you execute, that will lead you into a better run off of the next corner here. Looks like everybody's separated by roughly a half second here, just kind of panning through our field here. You see everybody still on track. Only driver that did not take time today was Paul Lindsay. Everybody else still that has taken time is still on the racetrack. Looks like Barros is starting to pull away just a little bit, so that battle for the lead in that class is off for the time being, but we do have a battle going on. That looks like Ross Booth battling with Todd Marin-Pietri there, exiting turn number 1 through Coca-Cola here in 100R. Now we're in 100R, turn number 4. And Booth up there to that 3rd spot. It'll be interesting to see. Currently 5.6 seconds behind Mitch Heller here. So he's going to have, Booth's going to have another 2 seconds before he gets into the clutches of Les Turner, into Batman. But last time by, he was actually almost over a second faster than Booth, rather than Les Turner. So Booth, don't count him out of it. I mean, we're still early enough in the race, and with pit stops, that a 5-second lead with a guy of comparable pace is not something that is insurmountable. We've seen so many times in the Red Sox Racing League where fuel strategy ends up winning the race. Shaving a couple seconds off that fuel stop definitely can lead to multiple seconds on the racetrack. Though we have seen it backfire where they didn't have enough fuel to get back to the pits on their cooldown lap, which is a requirement in the series. So if he can keep it to within that reasonable gap, I definitely think he has a chance. You can see the live telemetry has it down to less than 5 seconds, and he's using that slipstream from Turner, especially on the straightaways, to help tow him in towards Mitch Heller. Heller starting to close in on the GT3s right now. So that is definitely going to slow him up, going by the 12 of Scott Husted right there. Luckily caught him at a good point on the racetrack, heading into Dunlop turn number 10. The Dunlop chicane right behind the 16 of James Prostel. Had to lock him up there. He's caught in a very vulnerable part of the racetrack right now, so that's not going to help him, having to go around the outside here into the technical section here, 13 through 16. So that definitely cut into the lead. Booth now within 2 seconds. But now Les Turner is in a similar situation, having to deal with that. But that also backfired and allowed Booth to close right in on Les Turner. Now exiting Panasonic turn number 16 here. Going to have the benefit of the front straightaway here. They should be able to eat the rest of these GT3s alive. But we'll see if Ross Booth can kind of go double whammy here and take advantage of the opportunity on Les Turner. Takes a look and uses a GT3 as a pick. Great bit of driving right there by Ross Booth, setting that up perfectly, using that GT3 machine of, I'm trying to see who that was, the 33 of Ed Sutcliffe. Used him as a pick and managed to get by, and now he's only 2 seconds back, so now we have a race on our hands again. Last time by with that traffic, Booth, we'll bring up the graphics so you can see. Last time by for Ross Booth, a 131, basically a 132. But with that traffic, Heller at a 135 flat. So that is 3 seconds. And just look in front of Heller here. You can see it's not over. Got to do it right this time around. You can see Terry Dahl, that 53 machine, not having the best of runs here for him. He's currently 8th in class. Heller getting by him now. That's Mark. That's Dwayne McCarthy. He's going to go as high and wide as he can, but that's going to backfire. That's a little bit of karma for Booth there, because he caught those guys at a bad point. He has to go around the outside through 16. That's going to backfire heavily on him. So that lead is going to extend back out just a little bit. Not missing much for the lead in GT3 for the moment. It still is modestly close. Barros is only up by about 0.7 of a second over Dalton, but Dalton hasn't really been able to surge on that. Peter Mahler, again, just hanging on there in the distance, and that's where you can see there from this shot in the distant top of your screen, that orange machine, that is Heller. So he is closing in on these guys. Of course, it's multi-class, so they're going to go a lap down. It doesn't affect their evening, but that interaction will, perhaps cause Dalton to close in or even gain more time, or vice versa. The lead fluctuating with the LMPs by about 2 seconds here. See, Ross Booth had to navigate quite a few cars, but here comes Mitch Heller, catching through the 13-16 complex. That'll cause him to lose some time here, but it looked like Ross Booth got stuck behind that green machine, the 003, I believe, no, 004 machine. That's Peter Mahler there. That absolutely murdered Ross Booth. Cost him almost a second getting around Mahler there through the exit through the closing complex there. Todd Marin-Pietri currently in 4th, actually closing in on Les Turner through all of this. And then David Berry not too far back, so 3rd through 6th actually starting to heat up here. You can see, look how many cars on screen here right now. Front stretch, a very, very popular place here. At the Fuji Speedway. We never went over the weather here this evening either. 78 degrees in the air, 85 on the track. Nothing out of the usual there. And lead up front back to about a 2nd and a 3rd for your race leaders. Marin-Pietri still trying to close in on Les Turner here. Have a battle going on here. GT3. This is for 5th and 6th in GT3. Mark Kidrowski and Reed Rundle here with the 323 of Mark Wilson trying to thread the needle here while he closes it on Bill Lucky. So again, even on the tail end of the LMP spectrum, still have some battling going on and still have some GT3s battling here. Got battles all over the track, not just with the leaders. But speaking of your leaders, LMP overall leaders, now that gap less than a second. Last time by, Booth was 4/10 slower. This time by, again, lap traffic on the, I don't think they had been much on that last time by, but a second and a half faster for Heller that time by. His best lap at a 1:30.1 to Mitch Heller's best lap of a 1:30.2. Actually, no, best lap for Booth actually in the 29s. Well, he does have a 3/10 better overall best lap of the race. So definitely has the slight pace advantage. But getting to him is one thing, getting by him is another, as the age-old saying does state. Track like Fuji, you definitely can do things that are out of the norm when it comes to making these passes. You don't have to confine yourself to the normalities of just get them in the braking zone. You can play with your lines and with all the switchbacks and long sweepers, carousels, and chicanes. You can play with your lines here and try to do what you can do to get the better runs on exit. For example, on a tight right apex right there, you could just dive to the inside. It was a kind of a sharpening double apex right there. He tried to sneak it to the inside, but that was definitely going to hurt his exit. It'll hurt him down this long front straightaway. Look at the snaking going on, trying to break the draft. And Les Turner, you could see him on the back of the long shot, trying to do the same thing with Todd Marin Pietri there. For GT3 lead, still holding on about a quarter of a second. 3/4 of a second, excuse me, between Dalton and Barrows. Barrows still hanging on from the pole position, but here we go for the race lead, overall lead. Booth got him there, exiting Coca-Cola into 100R, turn number 4. Heller's going to try to come back in some capacity, diving into hairpin turn number 6, and it just seems like the Booth has the traction in those rear tires. He can just get off these corners so much better than Heller can. And there's being such a technical track, if you have that skill set in your toolbox where you're getting off the corners just that little bit better every single lap, when we have so many slow corners here that you have to accelerate out of quickly, that's going to amount to a significant lap time gain per time by. So definitely makes sense why. You can see he's already pulled away by a second now that he has that clean air. Do have a close battle here. Paul Lucky and Wilson, 7th and 8th in LMP. Shotgun on the LMP field, but still having a fun battle nonetheless here. Trying to see if they can hang on as Paul Lucky getting some air there over the sausage curbs. Not what you want to do, but if you're Wilson, you'll take the spot from that as they come off of 16. Still find it very interesting. The Dalton, it's almost like he's purposely just kind of riding right now. I know that's not the case because that's just not in the racer's DNA to do that. But he's just holding that exact steady 5/10 to 8/10 gap essentially every time by on Barrows. So it's, I know he's not just riding. Of course, he would want to lead this race, but they just seem so equally matched. And he's definitely driving in much deeper into that braking zone than Barrows was. See, Mahler, he's starting to fade, but fade very, very slowly. Still within gasping room of those top two, but now it looks like now that we're following him, Dalton falls back about a second here rather than just a half second. You can see on the left side of your screen that Booth already has pulled away by over 2 seconds over Heller. So now that he has the lead, he is just sending it to the moon here and just trying to sweep the field away. Trying to find other battles on track. Ed Sutcliffe here in 10th in GT3 has Scott Huston, that number 12 machine, looking to close in on him. Into... I'm trying to figure out where they are on track. I know it's embarrassing, folks. I'm still learning this Fuji Speedway. Coming into Dunlop here, which is pronounced by the fact that there's a Dunlop bridge, so that does make it easier for us to figure out where we are. The Dunlop chicane's here, and there is a bypass here where you can omit that Dunlop chicane. Of course, we are driving straight through it today. There once was a configuration here that omitted this 13 to 16 complex and allowed you to go straight, but they did permanently remove that bypass, making it a straightforward, permanent corner rather than being able to go through, just to minimize the high speeds there. But good, it's no joke. Left side of your screen, Ross Booth almost 4 seconds up. I'll switch the ticker over to lap times as Barros starting to lose his lead again to Dalton, but we'll switch over to lap times on the left side just for a brief moment. Almost 2 seconds faster last time, Booth over Heller. So that definitely shows why that pace is there and why that lead is extending so quickly. But that GT3 lead, again, half a second. So keeping an eye on that. Terry Dahl in 8th. That's Dwayne McCarthy in the 7th spot. This is a live battle here. Matt Owens just beside in that Matt Black ride. Dahl on the binders here. Looks like McCarthy may have overshot that corner just a little bit. Yeah, missed his apex once more, so Dahl trying to take advantage of it if he can. But this, well, and there goes McCarthy. Well, that'll do it. McCarthy overcooked it there, does the slow little half spin. And he'll only lose 2 spots in that. He does have plenty of space behind to Scott Husted, so won't have to worry about that. Paul Lucky closing in on Dennis Griffin here. Mark Wilson closing in on Dennis Griffin here. Battle for the 6th spot. That 323 starting to figure some things out. Heller definitely starting to slip here. You can see on the lap graph that last time by a 32, so he was actually slower than basically everybody at LMP. Last ball, Bill Pawlucky there, so definitely starting to make some mistakes and starting to slip 6-7 seconds. So that battle for the win definitely over, barring another mistake from Ross Booth, which is not very common for him. Somebody's stuck off there on the left side of the screen. I think that was Dwayne McCarthy once more. Didn't catch that one live, but he's parked on a hill. Let's see what that's all about. Exiting 16 here. It's either a technical problem or he just said, yeah, no, this is live, so not quite sure what that was about. Maybe he had some kind of technical problem and had to resolve it, not quite sure, but still waiting on pit stops here. This race is flying by. Only about less than 13 minutes left. Bill Pawlucky did pit for LMP, and James Prostel did pit for GT3. But, you know, this is around that time where we typically see pit stops in this series, so we'll take a look at when that next will occur. Closing in on the latter end of the circuit is Booth. Actually, he's on 16 right now. Let's see if he takes that hard right into the pit complex here. You do have to go a ways down the straightaway before that opens up, and he will keep it on the racetrack, so it'll be a very short pit stop when he does choose to come in. And here on the long shot, looks like everybody is passing by that entrance to pit lane, so it'll be at least one more lap for at least the vast majority of these guys. It's our GT3s Figuring out where they are on circuit right now. They are entering Dunlop chicanes here, so they'll be coming by the pits in a matter of about 25 to 30 seconds. And that lead just kind of, it's almost like a bubble. Dalton just can't break that half-second bubble. They are just so evenly matched at this point that it's going to take a mistake, but this is also, the gap being as small as it is, this is also the kind of gap that could easily be extended or lost entirely on pit road. And both of them will choose to remain on circuit for one more time, so everybody's seeming to stretch this race out as long as they can. In terms of that fuel load here, so coming down to the latter end of the circuit one more time, we'll be able to get a good indication on whether these guys will pit this time by. Booth is on the front straightaway, and he is going to take one more. So Jason Breifogel in, I think he came in out of 4th, if I'm not mistaken. He enters the pit stall in his GT3. Remember, our TCR champion last season, Matt Owens, in the pit. So GT3s starting to come to the pits more frequently here. Gap still about 3/4 of a second for your GT3 lead. Mitch Heller has lost a spot to Les Turner. So it must be a large compounding of mistakes being made here by Mitch Heller to go from leading this race back to the 3rd spot here. Now 13 seconds off of the lead pace. So I'm not quite sure what happened to him, but just progressively getting worse and worse and worse as each lap does tick off here. We do have Dennis Griffin, our first LMP, into the pits in that number 23 machine. Let's see here, taking lap number 17, heading to 18, under 10 minutes left in tonight's race, and one of the GT3s back there, super duper loose. That actually was Terry Dahl, who got loose off a 16. Looks like he is headed to the right of the track, and he will be attending to his pit crew here. Out of the 6th position in class. LMP, Mitch Heller, choosing to come to the attention of his crew. Todd Marin-Pietri just behind him. Mark Wilson, Dennis Griffin, and Bill Paulucky just behind. See, as we talked about, Dahl in the pits, and Mark Kidrowski exiting his pit. So these guys who are staying on the track definitely going for the super short splash and go. Sometimes we see these guys pit about halfway. Sometimes either they take tires, but if it's a splash and go, you know you're only going to be in there for 3-4 seconds, or perhaps longer than that, 5-6 seconds I think we've seen. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here as Heller's in his box and trying to see how much fuel he's taking. Or if perhaps he's penalized. I think he's penalized at this point because this is a 24, 25, 26 second stop. Usually if they take full fuel, it's a maximum of about 18 seconds. So I really think I need to stop talking about Mitch Heller because every time I say something, there's a chronic mistake that takes him out of it. He was not going to win the race, but you know, he had a top 5 car and he's still stuck in his pit box here. With a 49-second stop, that'll put him essentially shotgun on the LMP running order right now, as Booth still remains on the circuit here. Les Turner coming to the attention of his crew in the Batman Mobile. Gonna see who else is on tracks. Looks like Scott Husted, Jerry Mueller, Kevin Kyle, and Dwayne McCarthy, I do believe, only ones that have remained on the circuit. And then looks like finally Oh, no, I thought we were coming in. He's got to come in this time, but I cannot foresee any possibility that he can get another lap in, or why he'd want to at this point. We're basically down to 4 laps to go in the race, so he's going to have a absolutely infinitesimally small pit stop here, we'd have to imagine. I want to thank everybody for tuning in and having to speak in a very subdued tone here, which is not what I like to do, but really this is the only tone I can talk into minimize my cough from flaring up. So this is the kind of the tone we get, but hopefully next week I'll be all set and can be my normal energetic self. But heading into the pits here is Ross Booth. He shouldn't have any problem with retaining the lead with a significant buffer as we head under 10 minutes left. In GT3, Chad Dalton did lose about 1.1 seconds through that cycle and through the subsequent laps, as they've each been on track for actually just about a lap. Well, they're actually both on their out laps right now, as a matter of fact. So that lead was about 6 to 8 tenths for the majority of us checking it out. Now it's up to about a second and a half. So let's take a look at the internal pit stop data. Pit stops were of 1/10 of a second apart, but the on-time, on-pit road time segment, it does show that Robert Barros was 0.6 of a second faster in the course of the pit lane. So that meant that he did a better job getting into the box, getting out of the box, and maintaining the highest rate of speed in the pits possible. So that little bit more by Barros was what, to be honest, extended that lead as far as it was. So Ross Booth, after that pit stop, does shake out to 17 seconds over Les Turner, who does have David Berry hot on his tail for the third spot, well, rather for the second spot, as they do have to navigate Reed Rundle in that 43. Under 5 minutes to go. Heading into the back end of the circuit here, navigating the final chicanes here. They will be getting by Breyfogle in the process here, which will slow them up just a little bit. So we'll see if Berry can take advantage of Les Turner being slowed up just a little bit here. We'll have to go around the outside here, and Panasonic. Turner got through him all right. Berry did have a little bit harder of a time, but I don't think it'll mean too much in the grand scheme of things. 9:44 just in front of Mark Kidrowski. I don't know if they'll catch him on this straightaway. They'll catch him at the very, very end of the straightaway, or actually not even. So they'll both be able to get just by before the braking zone, which will be a good thing. Kevin Kyle on the pits, just trying to see what else if we have anything else going on track. There's not really too many other active battles, so this is the closest battle on track ahead of this. Les Turner up by Ross Booth up by 19 seconds. Mitch Heller, after that chronic mistake in the pits, 54 seconds off the lead, has 12 seconds to gain before the next spot. So that's not something he is going to be able to recover from in just about 3 laps. So it'll be interesting to see here. We're on the final corner here, so we should get 2 to go here, because average lap is about 1:30. So we'll take 2 laps to go here, and then the next time by we'll end up taking the white with about 30 seconds on the timer, and it will elapse and allow us to complete the final lap here. So it'll be 2 laps to go for Ross Booth. Always a front runner in essentially everything that he runs here. Hasn't double check the stats before I misspeak here. He has one win already in the LMPs, but for some reason I just failed to remember which race it was. Let me try to check here on the back end, but he does have one win this season, and but he is 9th in the points, mainly just due to participation, but they do get the drop week that does get calculated later into the season, so it was interesting to see what race gets dropped and where he stands as we head into Imola for race number 6, which is only 3 weeks away here. Robert Barros in GT3 is currently 2.5 seconds or so up on Chad Dalton, so Dalton definitely will regret that final pit stop and just losing the touch, because whether he could have got him or not quite sure, but you lose the opportunity when you make those mistakes here. But coming off the final corner for the white flag, or presumably so, for Ross Booth here at the newly released Fuji Speedway here on iRacing. Should be the white flag, and there it is on the telemetry. One more time around for Ross Booth for his 2nd win of the season in that LMP, who has been in front. Let's get the ticker up. Let's get the telemetry up. We got 12 laps. It'll be 13 when he crosses the stripe. Had to chase down Mitch Heller once he got around him to set sail. Had a nice smooth pit stop, and some more mistakes by Heller allowed him to open up the lead, and just has not turned away since then, and is by 17 seconds over Les Turner. Robert Barros again behind with about 2.5 seconds or so on Dalton, so nothing should intervene in that battle. Barros did start this race, so I started at 9th. So basically started the race from the 1st position in class. The graphic isn't as accurate as I'd like it to be here. But Ross Booth here coming through the final few sectors here at Fuji. Entering the final corner here at the Panasonic corner number 16, and our first ever trip to Japan at Fuji Speedway for the Red Sox Racing League. Race number 3 for LMP going to be won by Ross Booth. He wins here tonight. Congratulations go to Ross in that number 6 ride on his 2nd win of the season. And then we'll go and wait up for Robert Barros in that number 6, in that number 58 machine. He's going to come down here with about 2 seconds in the bag over Chad Dalton. And that's going to be a victory for Robert Barros. So Booth and Barros, the winners here in Japan. Good bit of driving by everybody here this evening. Nice clean race. I don't think we saw one contact incident. So very clean bit of driving for everybody, and putting it in victory circle as they did. The drivers who did win the race, congratulations to them. Just going to give a few more seconds and let everybody finish their laps, and we'll go ahead and give you the starting, I always say that, the finishing order here from Fuji. We'll bring up that final running order here today. Ross Booth with the win by almost 20 seconds over Les Turner. David Berry with the 3rd. Todd Barron Pietri in 4th. Mark Wilson with the 5th. Dennis Griffin in 6th. Bill Paul Lucky and Mitch Heller round out the LMPs. And then we had Robert Barros, of course, with the GT3 win. And Chad Dalton with the 2nd. Bart Kadrowski with 3rd, Jason Breifogel in 4th, Reed Rundle in 5th, Matt Owens in 6th, Terry Dahl in 7th, and then Husted, Bueller, Mahler, Kyle, and Prostel round out the field. A couple residuals here, Dwayne McCarthy, Ed Sutcliffe, Paul Lindsay, and then Zach Kruger did not take any time here this evening. So let's head to our post-race show. We'll try to get the cars on screen here so you guys can see these drivers in their rides that won tonight's race. We'll pull them down. Robert, you got me, brother? Oh, let me check something here. My Discord likes to be funky sometimes. All right, let's try that again. You got me? All right, I can see you tagging up here, but my Discord... Oh, okay, let me see here. Technology. Take 3.
Can you hear me now?
There we go. My audio source is like getting messed up. Windows updates for you. Robert, so in GT3, you had Chad Dalton on your bumper for, within a half second for the majority of that race, but you had a really good pit cycle there and it ended up extending that lead to 2 seconds, then walked away with it. So what's it feel like to get your first victory here in GT3 at a relatively new track here on the service?
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I'm not really sure where the pole speed came from. Running a 39 with a 5 there was about 6 to 7 tenths faster than I expected, which that was probably the difference. A little bit of a gap through the pit stall sequence there helped. The big thing is it seemed like he had a lot more brakes. He could get into the turns deeper, but he couldn't get close enough to get position under it. And then I could beat him off. So that was, I think, a track like this, that's probably the ideal thing that you want is to be able to get that run off so that you can't, you don't have to defend and compromise your entries for the next turn.
Yeah, I was talking about that on the broadcast. This track's so technical with a lot of different approaches to it with all the chicane sections, switchbacks. How much practice did you have to put learning this place, or did you already kind of know it from running races or other simulators?
I had a little bit of a familiarity with it before tonight, but it was basically just tonight for actual race conditions. So, it worked out. For whatever reason, I got on the front half of the course, I was pretty comfortable with. It's the switchbacks on the back half of the course were a little bit tricky. Just there's so many ways to get through there, and really none of them feel fast. But at least it seemed to be working well enough. So I'll take it.
You will take it indeed, man, and get a victory here on the season. Who do you want to give a shout out to for your efforts tonight?
Just a thanks, as hard as it is for me to say as a Cleveland sports fan, to the Red Sox Racing League, everybody who puts it on. The racing so far has been a blast, so I'm looking forward to the rest of the season.
All right, sounds good, man. We'll let you go. Thanks for talking to us. And Ross, we already got you up here, and I always talk about it. I think I'm giving Mitch the commentator's curse. Every time I talk about him, something bad happens, but you managed to find a way to take advantage of it. You had the speed on him either way, but once you got by, you drove off here into the sunset and got another victory here on the season. What was your race like tonight, man?
It was interesting, coming from the back to the field, and it was the first time I've raced here, so trying to understand where to pass the slower class at spots was a little bit touch and go at times, but we made it work. Had to take to the grass one time to get around someone, but hopefully the broadcast didn't catch that one.
I don't think I did, but I definitely caught a lot of interaction, and there was a couple times while you were trying to catch Mitch where, it was kind of karma. You would gain a ton of him on one segment, and then you would get bit by the traffic on the other side. But ultimately, where do you think that you kind of had the legs on everybody here today? Because, again, you had him by about a half second to a second a lap. Where did you feel the most comfortable?
I think the back half of the track is where I had the pace advantage tonight. You really got to roll through the corners and keep your speed up, and this helps with tire spin off the corner. So if you're really slow and then jam on the gas, you're always going to spin, but if you can keep your speed up and roll into the throttle, that's where you can get off of the corner, because you got all those switchbacks, and they're very awkward if you don't hit them right. So
yeah, it is definitely indeed. And then next week we head to a Red Sox Racing League favorite, a track that I think has been on the schedule every time I broadcast. And you guys head to Road Atlanta next week. Everybody knows that track inside and out. What are you feeling like heading into that place?
One of my favorite tracks to race in the LMP2, the traffic through there and through the S's and everything is so much fun to deal with. It'll be good practice for Petit Le Mans that's coming up really soon in the iRacing official races.
Yeah, for sure the case, man. I forgot about that myself. But either way, man, congrats again on a solid victory again here at Fuji. Who do you want to give a shout out to?
Shout out to Les, because Saturday I didn't turn a lap here, and he showed me the way around and picked up on it really quickly. So appreciate him giving me some tips. Shout out to Les and Terry, of course, for always putting on the league. And shout out to everyone that came out tonight. We had a nice little field tonight, and that was awesome to see.
Certainly, especially for a new track, a tough track. You guys are dedicated to your series, and you come out and show. So thanks to all you guys for that as well. And maybe we'll talk to you soon, Ross. I'm sure we will.
See you later. Thank you.
All right, so that is a broadcast here. Again, Ross Booth and Robert Barrows getting the victory here on PTR TV for the Red Sox Racing League. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. If you haven't liked, subscribe, please do so. A couple broadcasts coming up. We have our finale to the Spartan Sim Racing Series on Monday. We have the TNR Dirt Big Block Series on Tuesdays. And then we'll be here with you for the Red Sox Racing League every Thursday. So I want to thank everyone again one more time. It's Corey signing out of the booth tonight. Have a great night, and we'll catch you next time.